So, how are you today?
Doing okay, thank you.
Good. I'd like to know a little bit about the going to heaven when you die in the Muslim faith. In the Protestant faith, all Christians, when they die, their soul departs the body and goes to heaven. But in the Jehovah's Witness faith, only 144,000 receive a heavenly body, and the rest will be resurrected after Armageddon. They will have everlasting life on earth. So, what is the Islamic belief?
Islamic belief is that God has sole decision on who goes to heaven and hell. Even Prophet Muhammad said that it's not going to be for my good works, my good deeds, or any other good things that I do that I'll go to heaven, but only because of the graciousness of God that I will enter heaven if I enter heaven. And no one knows if they're going to go to heaven or hell. Now, people who do go to heaven or hell, it's not static in Islamic belief. For example, if someone is in heaven, they will go through different changes. So let's say you go to heaven, your status, your soul will not be static and stagnant at one position, because your realization of God and goodness will continue to improve, and you'll get closer and closer to God, who is infinite. So it's not like He is a point somewhere and then we are reaching Him. That point always moves because He's infinite and we are finite.
Okay, now the Protestants believe that heaven is streets of gold and buildings, and inside of a set place in heaven, like streets of gold and buildings. And what does now? I hear they have 7 heavens in the Islamic belief.
Yeah, so in fact, they say there are 7 hells and 8 heavens, but these are just numbers. One may say that in Arabic, 7 means many or infinite also. Like you say in English, we say, I told you 100 times. It doesn't mean I told you 100 times or many times. Whereas 8 heavens as opposed to 7 hell might mean that there are more places of heaven than hell. Now also, the streets of gold and other nice places, those are things so that someone can understand that if you do something good and you reach God, that there are nice things there. But according to Islamic tradition, no one really knows what is really in the afterlife. So even Prophet Muhammad says, no eyes have seen, no ears have heard, or no brain can even imagine what's in the heavens and hell. There was another tradition of the Prophet Muhammad. Once someone said that, remember Prophet, you said that heaven will be everywhere in the afterlife. Where will hell be? And he replied, it will be in the same spot. So one explanation could be that there will be different dimensions. We only see 3 or 4 dimensions here on earth. In the afterlife, maybe there will be different dimensions. So in the same space, there could be more than one dimension, and one is heaven and hell. I'll give you an example. Just coming here, I saw a cop in the street, and I felt good about it. And that was heaven for me. Whereas if a criminal is trying to steal or do something illegal, for him or her is hell.
Yeah.
So in the same spot, having the same environment, people can experience hellish or heavenly emotions.
Yeah, I thought there were 7 heavens, and you graduate to the next one as you go on in the Islamic faith.
Yeah, so there are usually, traditionally this mentioned 7 hells and 8 heavens, and there are names for it, and they are layers. So for humans to understand, just like we go through life both in school and in our otherwise non-academic life, you go through different stages. So you go from one stage to another. So that's what I meant, that it's never static. It's always going towards God. Even people in hell will eventually end up in heaven, according to Islamic tradition.
Oh, that's nice to know.
Because the reason, hell is not considered to be just a punishment. Hell is considered to be like a, perhaps more like a hospital than prison.
Oh.
So someone who is ill, spiritually speaking, right, they will not be able to enjoy the good things in heaven. So they go through treatments and rehab, and then eventually they will go to heaven. Because God, if He created us, He doesn't want us to end up in hell. No one. He doesn't want anyone to end up in hell forever.
Right. Now in the Protestant faith, hell is a place of torment. Now in the Jehovah's Witness faith,
Does he want
hell is the
me?
grave, and they're resurrected after Armageddon. They're given a chance to have everlasting life on earth.
Okay. So, in Islamic faith it's slightly different. We have three different lives that we are told about. One is the life here on earth.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's something called barzakh in Arabic, or it literally means middle life.
Mm-hmm.
So some people in the Christian faith will be called purgatory.
Now the
And
Catholics have the
Catholics have purgatory, and then afterwards, then the day of judgment, then God, has the decision, heaven or hell. Now, the day of judgment is also important in Islamic faith. That it is not that only if you did good you're going to go to heaven. If you did bad, you'll go to heaven. It's not that. God is mentioned as the master of the day of judgment. It's not just the just God, but He's also the master. So even if someone has done bad things all his or her life, and towards the end they realize that, look, I spent my life in sin, but now I understand what's going on, and they change their ways, then God has every right, because He's the master, He can do whatever He wants, He can change it. As someone who apparently has led a good life, but they also cheated on their wife, or they cheated on something else, but everything else looked fine, God can, God knows that, and He may punish that person or make him go through hell, which is kind of a rehab or a hospital, so he can get rid of his sins and then enjoy the good things in heaven.
Alrighty. Now on the going to hell, I've seen on a YouTube video, I think if I understand it right, the soul painfully is pulled out of the body and goes to hell.
So that's a very interesting question. Soul, although our body dies,
Right.
the soul lives on.
Oh, okay.
And according to Islamic tradition, in the afterlife, the soul will have a different body.
Oh, okay.
This is a body that will not look like this perhaps, but it will be based on the soul. So if the soul is sick or ill, the body that will be there will be kind of like that. And then afterwards, depending on where they go, the body may suffer, either pangs or fire, whatever they mention. But as I mentioned to you, these are just examples, right? So these are examples, and it does not necessarily mean it'll be fire, but we understand fire to be a bad thing. That's why we don't want it. It's like when you talk to your children when they're young.
Yeah.
You tell them, okay, don't do this because it'll be bad. But later on, they understand that the reason I don't want to do a bad thing is because it's bad.
Yeah.
And in itself, morally speaking, or from a societal point of view, is a bad thing. I shouldn't do it. Not because of just reward and punishment, but they don't do it because of something is bad.
Alrighty. Well, thanks for sharing.
You're welcome.